theory and introduction, we are going to discuss about this. So first of all हम cartoons को देखते हैं. ये cartoons जो है वो आपस में क्या बात कर रहे हैं. Another book to memorize. If only we could talk about things that concern us. Wait and see. This class will be different. Let's turn to page number 8 and read the box on the Socrates. I don't know, but I like the way he reveals the inconsistencies in the views expressed by others. This is really different. Who is Socrates? ये political theory हम पढ़ेंगे सबसे पहले. So human beings are unique in two aspects. They possess reasons and the ability to reflect on their actions, and they also have the capacity to use the language and communicate with each other. And unlike other species, they can express their innermost thoughts and desires. And they can share their ideas and discuss what they consider good to be good and desirable. And political theory has its roots in the twin aspects of the human self. It analyzes certain basic questions such as how should society be organized, and why do we need government, and what is the best form of government, and does law limit our freedom, and what does the state owe its citizens, what do we owe each other as citizens. Political theory examines questions of this kind and systematically thinks about the values that inform political life, values such as freedom, equality, and justice. It explains the meaning and significance of these and other related concepts. It clarifies the existing definitions of these concepts by focusing on some political thinkers of the past and present. It also examines the extent to which freedom or equality are actually present in the institutions that we participate in. Everyday life, such as schools, shops, bus or trains, or government offices at an advanced level. It looks whether existing definitions are adequate and how existing institutions, government, bureaucracy, and policy practices and क्या है ये must be modified to become more democratic. And the objective of political theory is to train citizens to think rationally about political questions and assess the political events of our time. In this chapter, we will examine what is meant by politics and political theory and why we should study it. What is politics? You would have noticed that people have different ideas about what politics is. Political leaders and persons who contest elections and hold political office may argue that it is a kind of public service. Some others associate politics with manipulation and intrigue undertaken to pursue ambitions and satisfy wants. A few think of politics as what politicians do. If they see politicians defecting from parties, changing from parties, making false promises and tall claims, manipulating different sections, pursuing personal or group interests ruthlessly, and in worst cases stooping to crime, they think politics with the scams. So prevalent is this way of thinking that when we see people in different walks of life trying to promote their interests any means possible, we say they are playing politics. If we see cricketer manipulating to stay in the team, or a fellow student trying to use his father's position, or a colleague in office mindlessly agreeing with the boss, we say he or she is playing dirty politics. Disillusioned by such pursuits of selfishness, we despair of politics. We say, I'm not interested in the politics, or I'm going to stay away from the politics. It is not only ordinary people who despair of politics, even businessmen and entrepreneurs routinely blame politics. Blame politics for their woes, even as they benefit from and fund various political parties. Cinema stars also complain of politics, though they seem to be adept at the game once they join it. And then उसके बाद क्या होता है? We are thus confronted with conflicting images of politics. Is politics an undesirable activity that we should stay away from and get rid of? Or is it a worthwhile activity which we must engage with in order to make a better world? It is unfortunate that politics has come to be associated with the pursuit of self interest by any and every method. We need to realize that politics is an important and integral part of any society. Mahatma Gandhi once observed that politics envelops us like the coils of a snake, and there is no other way out but to wrestle with it. No society can exist without some form of political organization and collective decision making. A society that wants to sustain itself needs to take into account the multiple needs and interests of its members. A number of social institutions, such as the family, tribes, and economic institutions, have emerged to help people fulfill their needs and aspirations. Such institutions help us find ways of living together, acknowledging our obligations to each other, and among such institutions, governments play an important part. How governments are formed and how they function is thus an important focus of politics. But politics is not confined to the affairs of the government. In fact, what governments do relevant because it affects the lives of the people in many different ways. We see the governments determine our economic policy and foreign policy and educational policy, and these policies can help to improve the lives of the people. But an inefficient or corrupt government can also endanger people's lives and security. If the government in power allows and conflicts to become violent, markets close and schools are shut, and these disrupt our lives. We cannot buy things that we may need urgently. Those who are sick cannot reach the hospital. Even the school schedule gets affected. Syllabi cannot be completed, and we may have to take extra coaching for the exams and pay tuition fees. If, on the other hand, the government makes policies to increase the literacy and employment, we may get an opportunity to go to good school and get a decent job. Since the actions of the government affect us deeply, we take a lively interest in what governments do. We form associations and organize campaigns to articulate our demands. We negotiate with the others and try to shape the goals that government pursue. And when we disagree with the policies of the government, we protest and organize demonstrations to persuade the government to change the existing laws. We passionately debate the actions of our representatives and discuss whether corruption has increased or decreased. We ask whether corruption can be rooted out. फिर उसके बाद जो है वो क्या है, whether reservations for the specific groups are just or not. We try to understand why some parties and leaders win elections. In this way, we look for the rationally underlying the prevalent chaos and decay and aspire to create a better world. To sum up, politics arises from the fact that we have different visions of what is just and desirable for us and our society. It involves the multiple negotiations that go on in the society through which collective decisions are made. At one level, it involves what government do and how they relate to the aspirations of the people. At another level, it involves how people struggle and influence decisions making. People may be said to engage in the political activities whenever they negotiate with each other and take part in the collective activities which are designed to promote social developments and help to resolve the common problems. Let's debate, should students participate in the politics? Yes, of course, they should. What do we study in the political theory? We look around us, what we see would be movement, development, and change. But if we look deeper, we would also see certain values and principles that have inspired people and guided policies. And ideals like democracy, freedom, or equality, for instance, different countries may try to protect such values for enshrining them in their constitutions, as in the case with the American and Indian constitutions. And these documents did not just emerge overnight, they are built upon the ideas and principles debated almost since the time of Kautilya, Aristotle to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Karl Marx, Mahatma Gandhi, and Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. As far back as the 5th century BC, Plato and Aristotle discussed with their students whether monarchy or democracy was better in modern times. Rousseau first argued for the freedom as a fundamental right of humankind. Karl Marx argued that equality was as crucial as freedom. Closer home, Mahatma Gandhi discussed the meaning of genuine freedom or Swaraj in his book Hind Swaraj. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar vigorously argued that the scheduled castes must be considered a minority and as such must receive special protection, and these ideas find their place in the Indian Constitution. Our preamble enshrines freedom and equality, and the chapter on the rights in the Indian Constitution abolishes untouchability in any form, and Gandhian principles find a place in the directive principles. Now let's talk about the political theory. So political theory deals with the ideas and the principles that shape constitutions, governments, and social lives in the systematic manner. It clarifies the meanings of concepts such as freedom, equality, justice, democracy, secularism, and so on. It probes the significance of the principles such as rule of law, separation of powers, judicial review, etc. This is done by examining the arguments advanced by different thinkers in the defense of these concepts. Though Rousseau or Marx, Gandhi did not become politicians. Their ideas influenced generations of politicians everywhere. There are also contemporary thinkers which drawn upon them to defend freedom or democracy in our own time. Besides examining arguments, political theories also reflect upon our current political experiences and point out trends and possibilities for the future. Now, can you identify the political principles, values, which is in application in each of the following statements or situations? I should be able to decide which subjects I want to study in the school. The practice of untouchability has been abolished. All Indians are equal before the law. Minorities can have their own schools and colleges. Foreigners who are visiting India cannot vote in Indian elections, and there should be no censorship of media or films. Students should be consulted while planning the annual day functions. Everyone must join the Republic Day celebrations. उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट है वो क्या है? But is all this relevant for us now? Have we not already achieved freedom and democracy while India is free and independent? Questions regarding freedom and equality have not ceased to crop up. This is because issues concerning freedom, equality, democracy arise in many areas of social life, and they are being implemented in different sectors at different paces. For instance, although equality may exist in the political sphere in the form of equal rights, it may not exist to the same extent in the economic or social spheres. People may enjoy equal political rights but still be discriminated against socially because of their castes or poverty, and some people may have a privileged place in the society while others are deprived even if the basic necessities. Some are able to achieve the whatever goals they set for themselves, while many are unable even to go to school so that they can have decent jobs in the future. For them, freedom is still a distant dream यार. उसके बाद next जो है वो secondly, though freedom is guaranteed in our constitution, we encounter new interpretations all the time. This is a bit like playing a game. As we play chess or cricket, we learn how to interpret the rules. In the process, we discover new and broader meanings of the game itself. Similarly, the fundamental rights guaranteed by our constitution are continually being reinterpreted in response to new circumstances. For instance, the right to life has been interpreted by the courts to include the right to livelihood, and the right to information has been granted through a new law. Societies frequently encounter new challenges which generate new interpretations, and the fundamental rights guaranteed by our constitution have been amended and expanded over time through the judicial interpretations and government policies which are designed to address the new problems. Thirdly, as our world changes, we may discover new dimensions of freedom as well as new threats to the freedom. For instance, global communications technology is making it easier for the activists to network with one another across the world for protecting tribal cultures or forests. But it also enables terrorists and criminals to network. Moreover, internet commerce is all set to increase in the future, and this means that the information we give about ourselves online to buy goods or services must be protected. So even though netizens, citizens of the internet, do not like the government control, and they recognize that some form of regulations is necessary to safeguard individual security and privacy. As a result, questions are raised regarding how much freedom should be given to the people using the net. For instance, should they be allowed to send unsolicited emails to the strangers? Can you advertise your products at rooms, or should governments be allowed to read private emails to track down the terrorists? How much regulation is justified, and who should regulate, governments or some private regulators? Political theory has a lot to teach us about possible answers to these questions, and is therefore very relevant here. Let's do it. Collect cartoons from the various newspapers and magazines. What are the various issues that they are concerned, and with which political concept do they highlight? उसके बाद जो next है वो क्या दे रखा है? In ancient Greece, in the city of Athens, Socrates was described as the wisest man. He was known for the questioning and challenging popularly held beliefs about society, religions, and politics. For this, he was condemned to death by the rulers of the Athens, and his student Plato his student Plato extensively about the life and ideas of Socrates. In his book The Republic, he created the character Socrates, and though him examined the question what is justice, and the book opens with a dialogue between Socrates and Cephalus. In the course of this dialogue, Cephalus and his friends come to recognize that their understanding of justice is an inadequate and unacceptable. The important thing in this is that Socrates uses reason to reveal the limitations and inconsistencies in a given point of view. His adversaries eventually admit that the views they had held and lived by could not be sustained. Now let's talk about the putting political theory to practice. In this textbook, we confine ourselves to our aspect of the political theory, that which deals with the origins, meanings, and significance of political ideas that we are familiar with, such as freedom, equality, citizenship, justice, development, nationalism, secularism, and so on. When we begin a debate or argument on any topic, we usually ask what does it mean and how does it matter. Political theorists have asked what is freedom or equality and provided diverse definitions. Unlike in mathematics, where there can be one definition of a triangle or a square, we encounter many definitions of equality or freedom or justice. Now here, read and see how Socrates achieved this. Well said, Cephalus, I replied, but as concerning justice, what is it? To speak the truth and to pay your debts. No more than this, and even to this, there no exceptions. Suppose that a friend, when in his right mind, had deposited alms with me, and he asks for them when he is not in his right mind, oft I to give them back to him. You are quite right, he replied, but then I said speaking the truth and paying your debts is not a correct definition of justice. And instead of saying simply as we did at first that it is just to do good to our friends and harm to our enemies, we should further say it is just to do good to our friends when they are good and harm to our enemies when they are evil. Yes, that appears to me to be the truth. ठीक है, इधर जो है क्या है, ये हमने क्या पढ़ा, दिस इज बिकॉज यहाँ पे पढ़ रहे थे हम पुटिंग पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी टू द प्रैक्टिस. This is because terms like equality concern our relationships in the with the others, human beings, rather than with the things. Human beings, unlike things, have opinions on the issues like equality, and many opinions need to be understood and harmonized. How do we go about this? Let us begin with our common experience of equality in the different places. You may have noticed that people often jump the queue in the shops or doctors' waiting rooms or the government offices. Sometimes those who do so are told to get back in the line, and we feel glad. Sometimes they get ahead, and we feel cheated. We resent this because we all want equal opportunities to get goods and services for which we are paying. So when we reflect on our experience, we understand that equality means equal opportunities for all. At the same time, if there are separate counters for the old and disabled, we understand that such special treatment may be justified. But we also notice every day that many poor people cannot go to the shop or to a doctor because they have no money to pay for the goods and services. Some of these people could be the day laborers who are cutting stones or lugging bricks for the long hours. If we are sensitive, we feel that it is not fair that in a society some members cannot even have their basic needs satisfied. We come to realize that equality must involve some kind of fairness, so that people are not unduly exploited and disadvantaged by economic factors. Consider the fact that there are many children who cannot go to school because they have to work to feed themselves, and most girl students in the poor households are pulled out of the school to care for their younger siblings while parents go to work, even though the Indian constitution guarantees the right to primary education for all. This right remains formal. Again, we may feel that the government should do more for such children and their parents so that they are enabled to go to school. Thus, you may see that our idea of equality is quite complex. When we are in the queue or playground, we want equal opportunity. Um, if we suffer from some disability, we want special provisions made. Then we cannot even afford basic needs. Equal opportunity enough is not enough. We must be able to go to school or get help through the proactive measures such as fair distribution of resources, jobs, decent wages, subsidized hospitals, etc. This requires that some agency be made responsible to ensure the fairness. ठीक है, but oft the just to injure anyone at all. Undoubtedly, he oft to injure those who are both wicked and his enemies. When horses are injured, are they improved or deteriorated? The latter, deteriorated. That is to say, in the good qualities of horses, not of dogs. Yes, of horses, and dogs are deteriorated in the good qualities of dogs and not of horses, of course. And will not men who are injured to be deteriorated in that which is the proper virtue of man, certainly, and that human virtue is justified, to be sure. Now, then men who are injured are of necessity made or unjust. That is the result. But can the musician by his art make men unmusical? Certainly not. Or the horseman by his art make them bad horsemen? Impossible. And can the just by justice make men unjust? Or speaking general, can the good by virtue make them bad? Assuredly not. Nor can the good harm anyone. Impossible. And the just is the good, certainly. उसके बाद हम क्या पढ़ रहे थे? So the reasons we have many definitions. It's because the meaning of equality is dependent on the context. We started with what it meant for ourselves and then proceeded to consider others and the poor, disadvantaged, senior citizens, etc. We discovered many layers of the meaning. We have been doing political theory without realizing it. Political theorists clarify the meaning of political concepts by looking at how they are understood and used in the ordinary language. They also debate and examine the diverse meanings and opinions in a systematic manner. And when is equality of opportunity enough? And when do people need special treatment? How far and how long should such special treatment be given? Should poor children be given midday meal to encourage them to stay in the schools? And there are some questions which they address. As you can see, these issues are eminently practical, and they provide guidelines for the framing public policies on the education and employment. As in the case of equality, we also, in the case of other concepts, political theorists engage with the everyday opinions, debate possible meanings, and thrash out policy options. Freedom, citizens' rights and development, justice, equality, nationalism, and secularisms are some of the concepts that we discuss in the following chapters. Now, why should we study the political theory? So, ये हम पढ़ेंगे. But first of all, then to injure a friend or anyone else is not the act of a just man, but of that opposite who is the unjust. I think that what you say is quite true, Socrates, and he who is most skillful in preventing or escaping from a disease is best able to create one. This is true. उसके बाद, and he is the best guard of a camp, who is best able to steal a march upon the enemy, certainly. Then he who is good keeper of anything is also a good theft, that I suppose is to be inferred. Then if the just man is good at keeping money, he is good at stealing it, that is implied in the argument. हेलो, उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट है वो क्या है? देन आफ्टर ऑल द जस्ट मैन हैज़ टर्नड आउट to be a thief, and you would argue that the good are our friends and the bad are our enemies. Yes, and instead of saying simply as we did at first that it is just to do good to our friends and harm to our enemies, we should further say it is just to do good to our friends when they are good and harm to our enemies when they are evil. Yes, that appears to me to be the truth. But of the just to injure anyone at all, undoubtedly he ought to injure those who are both wicked and his enemies. Hi. his enemies. When horses are injured, are they improved or deteriorated? The latter. Deteriorated, that is to say, is the in the good qualities of horses, not of the dogs. Yes, of horses. And dogs are deteriorated in the good qualities of dogs and not of horse, of course. Yeah, why should we study political theory? क्यों पढ़ते हैं हम political theory? क्या जरूरत है इसको पढ़ने की? So we may have political ideas, but do we need to study political theory? Is it not most suited for the politicians who practice politics, or for the bureaucrats who make policies, or for those who teach political theory, or for lawyers and judges who interpret the constitution and laws, or for activists and journalists who expose exploitation and demand the new rights? And what do we high school students gain by knowing the meaning of freedom or equality? First of all, the political theory is relevant for all the above target groups. As high school students, we may choose one of the above professions in the future, and so indirectly, it is relevant for us even to know. I am from Sonipat, Haryana. First of all, political theory is relevant for all the above target groups. As high school students, we may choose one of the above professions in the future, and so indirectly, it is relevant for us even now. Do we not learn mathematics? Although not all of us will become mathematicians or engineers, is it not good because basic arithmetic is useful to the life in general? Secondly, we are all going to be the citizens entitled to vote and decide other issues. To act responsibly, it is helpful to have a basic knowledge of the political ideas and institutions that shape the world we live in. In the information society, it is crucial that we learn to be reasonable and informed if we are to participate in the gram sabhas we or offer our views on websites and polls. If we simply express arbitrary preferences, we will not be very effective. But if we are thoughtful and mature, we can use the new media to discuss and express our common interests. उसके बाद जो next है वो क्या है? उसके बाद as citizens, we are a bit like the audience in the music. As a citizens, we are a bit like the audience in a music concert. No, I am not on other social media. I am only on YouTube. So, and will not men who are injured be deteriorated in that which is the proper virtue of man? Certainly, and that human virtue is justice, to be sure. Then men who are injured are of necessity made unjust, that is the result. But can the musician by his art make man unmusical? Certainly not. Or the horseman by his art make them bad horsemen? Impossible. And can the just by justice make man unjust? Or speaking in general, can the good by virtue making them bad? Assuredly not. Nor can the good harm anyone, impossible, and the just is the good, certainly. Then to injure a friend or anyone else is not the act of just man, but of the opposite, who is the unjust. Think that you say is quite true, Socrates. Then if a man says that justice consists in the repayment of debts, and that goods is the debt which a man owes to his friends, and evil the debt which he owes to his enemies. To say is this is not wise, for it is not true. If as has been clearly shown, the injuring of another can be in no case just. I agree with you, said Paul Marches. ठीक है, इधर जो है हम क्या पढ़ रहे थे? वी वर डिस्कसिंग वाई शुड वी स्टडी द पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी. फिर यहाँ पे बड़ी मस्त बात की गई है कि एज सिटीजन्स वी आर बिट लाइक द ऑडियंस इन अ म्यूजिक कंसर्ट. वी आर नॉट द मेन परफॉर्मर्स इंटरप्रेटिंग द सॉन्ग एंड मेलोडी, but we set the agenda and appreciate the output and put in new requests. Have you noticed that musicians perform better when they know the audience is knowledgeable and appreciative? So also an educated and vigilant citizenry makes those who play politics more public spirited. Thirdly, why do we need political theory? Thirdly, freedom, equality, and secularism are not abstract issues in our lives. We daily encounter discrimination of various sorts in the families, schools, colleges, shopping malls, and so on. We ourselves have prejudices against the people who are different from us, be they of a different caste or religious or gender or class. If we feel oppressed, we want it redressed, and if that is delayed, we feel violent revolution is justified. If we are privileged, we deny that there is any oppression. That is there is any oppression, even as our maids and servants struggle for the dignity. Sometimes what happen, sometimes we even feel that our servants deserve the treatment they get. What political theory encourages us to do is examine our ideas and feelings about the political things. Just by looking at them more carefully, we become moderate in our ideas and feelings. Finally, as students, we enjoy debates and elocution competitions. We have opinions about what is right or wrong. Just students just but do not know whether they are reasonable or not. Only when we argue with others, we realize the needs to defend them and seek out reasons and arguments. Political theory exposes us to the systematic thinking or justice or equality so that we can polish our opinions and argue in an informed manner and for the sake of common interest. Such skills of debating rationally and communicating effectively are likely to be great assets in the global information order. Okay? So this is done. We have discussed the chapter political theory. Thank you so much for watching and stay connected.